Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kat's podcast. I am your host, Kat. I'm going to be doing part two of my testimonial here and try to get as much of it as I can done before tomorrow because tomorrow's when I go live at 10 p.m. Eastern. I hope everyone can make it out, be a part of the show. It'll be on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to be reading this, so if it sounds like I'm reading, well, I am. Okay, I know I left with a lot. Okay, wait a minute. Let me start over. Anyway, welcome everybody to Kat's podcast. This is Kat, and here we go. Okay, I know I left a lot out about my childhood, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. But mainly, I was wanting to show how when I was breathing underwater that time. I wanted to show about the dreams that I was having of God and how riding the beast made me pretty fearless at a very early age. Now back to when I was married. Okay, I was only 18 years old and I was way too young to be getting married or having a baby. But sometimes life doesn't happen the way you think it's supposed to. Before I had gotten married, I was staying at my parents', but we had bought a little small mobile home. I was renting a lot for $50 a month, and I was still overseeing 200 acres of land, plus the lot rent for the trailer. $50 a month, good old days. Right before I got married, my fiance and his friend were staying in the mobile home we got, but I was staying at home until I got married. But I was still storing all my baby stuff and everything over there, everything that I got for my baby, everything. Um, my dad and brothers were active in the fire department, and like I previously stated, we grew up in the fire department, so they were like family. Hold on just a minute. Okay, let me find out where I was at here. I thought somebody was knocking. Mm, okay. Um, well, we got a call one night when it was storming pretty bad, and my sister answered the phone, and she started screaming, "Oh no, the trailer's gone!" Well, there was a mobile home across the street, so I started looking out the window and was shouting, Where did it go?" She screamed, "No, not that trailer, your trailer!" And that threw me straight into shock because I knew my fiance and his friend were in that trailer. She explained it went over in a tornado. My dad started getting a call, beep, 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 on the monitor for the fire department. And it was the call, that was the call. And so when he was running out the door, I ran too and I said, "I'm going with you." And he looked at me and he was like, "Get back in that house and get some clothes on." Not realizing I only had a t shirt and panties on because actually we were in bed before this call. Okay, so I was a mess, but needless to say, we lost everything. My landlady was pretty old and lived in Syracuse, Indiana, which was a few hours away up north. And when she found out about it, seeing the devastation on the news, she came down to see for herself what it would look like. And when she got there, she asked me and my soon-to-be husband. She said, "Can you all follow me a couple streets over? I want to show you something." And it was on the land that we was overseeing. So we was like, "Sure." And we rode, followed her over there. Um, and there was an empty two bedroom mobile home, and she gave it to me. I thought everybody used to tell me how mean this lady was and stuff. And she was a teacher, old school teacher in her old day, the kind that take her ruler and smack you by the hand or whatever, and how mean she was. But I thought that was the sweetest lady. I mean, she was wonderful. She saved us. Well, living in such a small town, everyone is related or at least knows everyone anyhow. We lived on a dead end road almost to the end, but on the left hand side. But our neighbors lived all the way to the very end. They were living half the time here and then half the time in Texas. Um, but the female, the girl, she was so beautiful. I thought she was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. And the way she dressed and lived was like a movie star to me. So, of course, I was sheltered and completely just mesmerized with her life and her. But she was a stripper. Well, being so sheltered, is the first stripper I had ever known or even known of. She had two horses and she needed someone to care for them while she was out of town, and told me that if I took care of them that I could have one of them. Naturally, I agreed. My grandpa had sold my dad 4 acres closer to the house, which is just a street over, so that I could live on it, and we were planning to slowly move in because it was wooded and grow up with brush and sticker bushes and such. So to we needed driveways, but first we had to have it cleared out. We needed septic system and all that as well. So I figured if we put a fence up and a gate for the horses and put them in there, that they would start cleaning it off themselves, and which they did. Well, these people partied, so I was hanging out. I was hanging out with her during the days on the times that she was in town, and my husband was hanging with her husband quite a bit, and we became really close friends. She and I would horseback ride together mostly every day when she was in, and she was always drinking. And if she wasn't, her hands would shake, and I'd never seen anybody like that or nothing. But I so every now and again she would talk me into having a drink with her when we go horseback riding. But back then, all I did was I did smoke weed, so I'm not gonna lie. But that was it. That was all I did. She would even go out of town, and her husband would stay in town, and he would always have other women and stuff down there while she was gone. Well, she talked to me about everything, and she talked to me about that stuff too, and how she knew about all that and everything, and how it bothered her all the time. I never told her nothing. She just told me, and I just agreed to. I just listened. Well, I felt so bad for her though. When she would tell me how it made her feel and stuff, and how he would do her, that I was like, I don't never want to do her like that. You know what I mean? I don't want to be the one, because even her sister was doing it. They were very well known people, very popular from around where we was at. Well, moving right along. Let's see where I left off. Okay. One night our truck caught on fire because previously that day my husband wrecked it because someone backed out of a driveway in front of and him and the two neighbors, and it wasn't totaled, but when they wrecked it, it wouldn't run. So the fire department asked where he wanted it towed, and he said just tow it to the house and sit it on the side of the driveway, which they did. But I guess after an accident, you are supposed to disconnect the battery, and no one thought to do so. So that night, seeing a glimpse out of the window of something, we looked out to see what it was, and it was the truck in a blaze. Well, the good thing is it was insured, and I believe back then, though, they paid like 7,000 for the whole thing, which trucks were nothing compared to the cost they are to today. Okay, and so that wasn't much, but I found a trailer with the insurance money. I found a trailer that I wanted, only because of the bathroom. It was a 3 bedroom trailer, but the bathroom was awesome, but everything else had to be completely gutted. All 3 bedrooms, living room, kitchen, everything else. But it had a beautiful bathroom. So my dad and I did pretty much all of that. And the mobile home cost me like $3,000. And then right before we left, they said, "Hey, do you want to buy that central air for 500? It's brand new." So I went ahead and bought that. $3,500 out of 7,000, but the rest went toward the $5,000 septic system. The two driveways, I believe, cost like $1,000, and the other things. But anyway, we moved just one street over, but I still took care of the horses, and my neighbor and I still hung out a whole lot when she was in town, and our husbands always hung out quite a bit. Well, my mom, my baby, and I went to the doctor to a doctor appointment one day, and on our way home, the fire department had passed us like majorly fast, and there was a bunch of them. Being as we knew everybody, we were like, "Oh man, they've got a good one today." Well, we got to my house, and that's what it was. It was my home. By that time, it was completely gone. My dad said it only takes like 6 or 7 minutes for a mobile home to completely burn down anyway. That's why he never wanted us to live in one. But needless to say, already, home number two, completely gone. I couldn't have been 19, 20 years old. Okay, so back to the mobile home on the dead end road, because I still paid the $50 lot rent because it was silly not to when you're overseeing 200 acres and you can park your mobile home there for just $50 a month. It's silly not to. I just wanted to park there until I figured out what I could do with it, and well, now I knew what to do with it. Move back in. We had to use the little money that we did get from the insurance, which wasn't much, to try to rebuild. So everyone in my family, our friends, my husband's dad, they all pitched in. We kept 2 kegs of beer at the lake behind, which was my backyard, but my dad and brother owned it, but it was in my backyard. So there was always 2 kegs there, and we ended up. My brother's friend bought the kegs because we had parties there every weekend back in the day, and everybody in town would stop by there whenever and drink a beer. So we just had the 2 kegs filled when they would run it when dry. But let's see. Since my husband smoked weed and grew it back in the day, um, everyone came to help. They knew when they came to help, you can have a beer to drink, you have something to smoke, and I usually fed whoever was helping. I think I got my whole plumbing system done for a 6 pack of Zima, a 6 pack of Bud Light, and 2 Papa John's pizzas. And I got the whole basement 3-story A-frame home plumbed. That's what it cost me. So since, let's see, wrong spot. So everybody pitched in is what my point was. Okay, one night after working, my husband wanted to run down to the end of the road to talk to the neighbor before finishing the night. Let me turn the page. Before finishing the night eating our lasagna that I had previously made for that night, waiting at home. I was like, I really don't want to go down there if my friend wasn't down there, and she was out of town at the time. He was like, I'll just run in just a minute, and he said I could wait in the car while he did, but that never happened. He always said that, and he was like he was like worse than a female when it came to gossiping. So I made it clear that supper's on the table. I'm worn out. That's why I let the baby stay at my mom's for the night. And you better go in there, say what you need to say, and you better not take all night, and you better not come out even with the guy saying, now come in here and do this and that like you usually do. And he's like, I won't, I won't. But he always said that, but he promised this time. So we ran down there, and he ran into the garage and was gone about 10 minutes or so. And here come the neighbor, open up the door with my husband standing behind him, looking at me like, oh no, I'm sorry. But he was saying, come here, I got something I want you to taste. I was like, okay, I want to get home, but okay. I was so mad though, but I walked in, and it was homemade dandelion wine. He had 6 fists. He said to taste one of them, and then he asked, did I mind if he drove me and my husband out to the country here just a little ways to my husband's cousin, because she had some medicine that he was wanting to get from her because that was kind he took, and she obviously had some for sale. It was Xanax, which back then I didn't know what Xanax was or nothing. But so I agreed, and he took some of the wine with us, and he was driving me and my husband out there, and we got there, and my husband ended up getting the rest. So she had 17 Xanaxes. I remember that. So he came out and gave it to the guy, and we was drinking, and everything was okay, and we was headed back home. Little did we know, the guy dumped all 17 of those Xanaxes into the wine. I remember the last thing I remember was pulling up in the driveway, and he had a pile of gravel and was trying to pull up on that pile of gravel, and everybody was laughing, and that was it. The end. You know what I mean? That was the last thing I remember. Um, anyway, needless to say, 3 days later, we both woke up, me and my husband, at our home in my daughter's bedroom in her bed. At the same time we woke up, but we're looking at each other like, what are we doing in here? Why are we in her bedroom? You know what I mean? Because it was a little small bedroom, but ours wasn't that great big. But why would we be in her little twin bed, you know? And we're just looking at each other, kind of puzzled. And all of a sudden, we look down, and that guy's T-shirt that I was wearing, that guy's T-shirt. Oh, it made me sick to my stomach. I was looking at him like, "You let him do something to me," and he was looking at me like, "You cheated on me," and we were both so confused, didn't know what was going on. So I looked out to see where the car was, and it was not there. Because I was like, why are we in this room and stuff? What, did we drive home? Looked out, the car's not there. So I was like, you're going to have to go get the car. And he would not do it. He just completely refused. So I ended up having to go get the car. But I was arguing with my mom on the phone. I mean, my daughter, I left her. You know what I mean? There's lasagna still on the table to eat. When I called my mom, it was Saturday. She said it was 3 days later. She kept telling me it was Saturday. I was like, Mom, no, it's not. Quit messing with me. I said, I know it's Wednesday. I said, we eat lasagna every Wednesday night, and it's still sitting on the table. And it was. And she's like, no, Kathy, it's Saturday. I was like, I don't leave my baby like that. It's not Saturday. I was getting mad at her. And because he wasn't going to help me, he wasn't trying to help me get the car, nothing. You know what I mean? And I mean, this was devastating to me. You know, I know it's devastating to you, but it's devastating to me. Really, really devastating to me. Surely you can go get the car. No, he couldn't. So then I had to walk down to the end of the road, and I was going to just try to sneak up, get in the car, and leave. And the car was there. So I snuck up. I was opening the door, and I heard, oh, hey, hey, hold on, I'll holler at you. And he came running out, and there was a guy with him that was kind of like my second dad. Both his daughters was actually my wedding as maids of honor. My maid, you know what I'm saying, bridesmaids. Okay, so, and I grew up there, like they grew up here. But he walked out with him, and the guy was saying, "Man, we had a blast last night, didn't you think?" And I'm looked at him like a puzzled, and I looked up and seen that guy, and he was just looking at me like, "Just go with it." But he was giving me eyes, like stretching his eyes wide open, looking at me like, just go with it." And I was like, "Yeah, sure did." And I didn't remember anything that happened. He's like, "We might have to do that again sometime." And I was still looking up at my buddies, my friend's dad, and I'm like, yeah, sure are. I got to get out of here. We're supposed to be over to the house working. And I jumped in the car and I left. But I was thinking to myself, oh my God, what happened? You know what I mean? I didn't even know what happened. I still have no memory of what happened, but I have been told and talked to since then, but still have no absolute memory at all of what happened. And anyway, so after that, I was a mess. I was a complete mess. I stopped eating. All I would do, I took those mini things that you buy over the counter. Now you had to sign a state police law to get them, the real ones, but I would just chunk them in my mouth, drink coffee, and smoke cigarettes. I didn't eat. I didn't really talk. I just paced back and forth at the house. We had the basement done, and the first part of the A-frame, and the floor was on it. And so I would just sit up there and pace on that floor most of the time, and back and forth, just trying to rack my brain. And everybody knew something had happened because when I ran him over there to drop him off to get to the house, his dad, he had just met his dad, my husband, and he'd never known his dad, but the store I was working at, he'd hand me a check one day, and I knew that was his dad's name. So I'm like, hey, you want to see your grandfather? And handed him pictures, and that way he got introduced to my husband and stuff and became part of his life. So he was helping to do the house. And when I went over there to run him over there to go back to work, thinking they would probably wonder where we've been. It's 3 days. He jumps out to go up there and work. Everybody's looking at us like, where y'all been? They didn't say nothing. And then when I back out, I hit his dad's truck. I pulled right into his dad's truck. I just looked up at him like, oh my God. I had enough. I about lost it. And his dad looked at me and he goes, go on, go. I mean, everybody knew something was wrong. Something had happened. And so a few days later, I was there by myself, pacing that floor, like I said. And that guy that I told you was like a second father kind of to me. He sees me out there by myself and he pulls up and he said, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" And I was like, "Sure." And I was just in a daze. And he opened my hand. He said, "Here, take these," and handed me a handful of pills. He said, "Take these. Sometimes there's one or two at a time." I said, "What are they?" "They're Paxil. They're for depression and stuff." And I was like, "Okay," which I never did, but I took them. Took them in my hand. Was what I mean. And he's like, I was like, "What happened?" And he said, "All I know," he said, "I got a call in the middle of the night from his son saying I need your help. Dad just fell through the big screen TV, which was one of them back in the day, them huge TVs." And he said, "And I need you to get over here. I need your help." And he said, when I got over there, he said, "I got to show you something." He said he showed me my husband was asleep on the couch in the garage, passed out, which he would have never done because this guy had a killer dog that would eat you alive. So we didn't just be all freely out there because of that dog. And he said, "Come here, I want to show you something." Took him to the camper where I was unclothed, passed out with blood all over me. He had to dress me. He said he put us in his car. He took us down, took us in our home, put us in the bed. He was going to put us in my daughter's room. He said, "For 3 days, I come back and checked on you all because he thought we might die. It was that bad." And I'm like, "Are you serious?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so kind of knew what had happened, but not really, thank God. But it broke my heart because I didn't want to do that to my friend, you know what I mean? And I knew she was going to think that I did that to her, but I didn't do nothing like that, you know? But it turned out after that, my life was just on a downward spiral from there on. Um, my brother he would go to these bike runs and stuff, so I started going with him to these bike runs. The first one, I took my husband and everything, but we were kind of already. I was mad at him. I still am angry at him, but I was mad at him, and he wouldn't even he didn't. I feel like he let that happen to me, you know what I mean? Because he knew I didn't want to do that, and he tries to act like I cheated on him, and that really hurts my heart because I never would have. I was a good girl. I was a really good girl. So that weekend, I even paid for his uncle and cousin, and like 3 or 4 of his cousins. There was like almost 10 people that I took that weekend to the bike run. It was $47 a person, and I paid for it. And took them to a bike run, which I'd never been to one either. But when I got up there, it was the wildest thing I'd ever seen in my life. Everybody was Most everybody was naked, riding Harleys in a constant pass, and people camped all around it. You know what I mean? Well, my husband said, "Come here," and he was putting the tent up. He said, "Get in here." Had me get in the tent. He said, "You're staying in here. You're not going out there the whole weekend." I was like, "The heck I am. I paid for all this money for everybody and myself." I was like, "I'm not staying in this tent." He's like, "Yes, you are." So I took off the whole weekend. I was there, but I took off from him. Well, I guess it's supposedly at the end of the weekend, his uncle he knew where I was at, and he had been watching me. And he knew I wasn't cheating or anything, you know what I mean? I was a mess. I was just a mess. I was in a daze. I was rebelling. But told my husband, he cried the whole weekend and finally was getting ready to leave. He said, "You want to know where your old lady is?" And he said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Come on, follow me." Took him and showed him where I was at. And he said, "Look, she's a good girl. She ain't done nothing wrong. I've been watching her all weekend." So we ended up packing up, going home, and I was headed out to the next one the following weekend. He kept telling me, "No, you're not." I argued all week until the weekend came. Kept telling him, I said, "I am going." I said, "You are more than welcome to go. If you don't want to, that's fine." I said, "But I am going. I'm going." And I did. Ended up winning the wet t-shirt contest, which ended up not being a wet t-shirt. You had your t-shirt over your shoulder. Something I'd never done, but you know what I mean. I was out going crazy because I was going crazy. And camp, we broke down on this I-69 for like 2 hours on the way to a bike run, and you couldn't get through. No traffic could move for like 2 hours because of a bad accident. So everybody had been sitting there, had their cars turned off, and was getting out of their cars actually and standing around. And there was a semi beside us, and this good-looking guy. He really was a handsome guy, but I wasn't out looking for a guy. you know, I was in a daze. I was messed up. I needed help, but everybody that I was with got out of the vehicles, and he was beside him. He's like, all he kept worrying about was that girl in the truck. Who's that girl in the truck? Who's that girl in the truck? And it was my brother. He was talking to him. I was like, oh, that's just my sister. Like, she had a name, nothing. That's just my sister. He's like, what's her name? She's beautiful. And well, little did I know, they gave that man a phone number and address of where I lived. And then that following week, when we got back home, we was sitting there at the lake I told you behind my house, the first trailer there, and partying. And they said, Kat, you need to run up to the store here in town. Somebody's there to meet you. I'm like, what do you mean somebody's there to meet me? I didn't tell nobody to meet me. They said, yeah, you remember that guy on I-69? I was like, no way. I said, if you told him to come all this way from Ohio, then you go meet him because I didn't. You know, what I mean, I wasn't in the mood to meet anybody. So I jumped into the car with the girls that was in my bridesmaids. I said that their brother was there. I jumped in the car and said, "Here, take me to town." So he ran me to town, and that night, um, um, well, I'd met the guy previously once, but I ran back into him that night. I knew his brother all my life, and his brother was a really good guy. I thought, and handsome. Everybody, all the girls in town wanted him, but and then his family lived there, and his brother looked just like him, just even cuter, I thought, but a little bit younger. But so I thought they might be like each other, but they weren't. They were night and day. But anyway, I ended up running into that guy that night, which ended up being my second husband, but not a great time there either. I mean, like I was really went from a bad spot in my life to a part of my life that most humans can't even fathom. So I'm going to do that on part three of my testimony. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one up for now. Hopefully, I'll get it in later. If not, I got my live show tomorrow. Remember, 10 Eastern on YouTube, or the same place where you're seeing this one. Make sure you subscribe because some of these shows are only going to be for people's subscriptions, for people subscribers. I can't even talk. Please hit that like button. It helps the algorithm for YouTube to get this video pushed out there for people that's going to need it, which this part they may not need, but it's good to have for what I'm getting ready to go into and talk about what I've been going through about this human trafficking, gang stalking, corruption. And believe me, I know about all of it. I firsthand knowledge. I lived it. I'm still living it. And so make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. And so you can see the videos that's just special for subscribers. And I guess that's all for now. So hopefully I'll be seeing everybody tomorrow. Hope you come and be a part of the show with me and be a part of the family. And until next time, family, this is Kat. Welcome to Kat's podcast. I'm signing off. Until next time, family. Hasta la vista, baby.